like that. I'm happy to say that we completed all those nuclear power plants with some delay, but at the same time demonstrated to the rest of the world that in spite of their sanctions that we could complete many of our these. And this was possible largely due to the Mrs. Indira Gandhi's faith in the in Indians' ability to stand on its own. It was a hostile global environment, and obtaining the other alternative was to abandon our program, but that was not what she wanted. This went against the nature of Mrs. Indira Gandhi. She refused to compromise on India's sovereign policies and preferred to take the harder road. The bigger the threat from outside, the stronger was her response. The courage that she displayed at that point of time, it's a great lesson to some of us working with her. Another time we saw her acting with a tremendous amount of courage was without any experience that we have had and with very little of support from any outside countries, the way in which we did our oil exploration programs. And this was essentially because that we wanted to be self-sufficient in the energy sector. And when oil prices soared up in 1971, she gave a great push for the oil and gas exploration. It's a great amount of risk. And the ONGC drilled extensively in Assam and in Bombay. This called for newer equipment. Can you believe that at that point of time, the whole world did not refuse to give us even a single oil drilling rig for deep drilling? When the government of India went in for buying the rig, there was not even a single offer from any of the countries. That's again, he motivated some of us. It was actually the BHL under her stewardship really built the oil drilling rig, and we continued with our program of oil drilling. The push that she gave at that point of time to ONGC is today standing us in good stead, and ONGC has become one of the biggest players in the oil field. Indira Gandhi's economic policies were shaped by such adversities which later governments did not face. The external environment on the financial and the industrial fronts were not encouraging at that time. She believed that the private enterprises had not grown to the full extent to take the responsibility of running key infrastructure areas, a reason why she emphasized on the primacy of the public sector as the engine for India's development. In her time, the public sector controlled more areas of economy. Their roles rapidly increased in our roles. Despite her emphasis on public sector, Indira Gandhi was not against the private sector as it is generally believed or its growth. I know it by experience. And she was not tied to any ideology, but used ideology to achieve her ambition of making India a great power. Till 1980, the Indian private sector suffered not only by licensing, but also from technological and financial limitations. Only a few could grow and diversify their technical activities. But it was during Indira Gandhi's time that some of the today's biggest names in textiles, petroleum, pharmaceuticals, and the automotive sector got their break. Let me illustrate another case where she showed extraordinary flexibility in terms of public-private partnership. She had been under severe strain about the Maruti project for a small car. She thought that her own prestige was at stake. She was convinced that the concept of a people's car was good and had therefore nationalized Maruti to develop the concept under the government. She brought me to head this and to make the people's car a reality. After studying the project and the economic environment, some of us felt that the government policies in regard to foreign investment in automobile sector need to be changed. At that time, there was a total ban on foreign investment in the automotive sector. I told her that the ban on foreign investment should be lifted if we have to move fast, and that we should allow foreign equity participation to achieve the objective of modernizing the Indian automotive sector. When she got convinced, she cut out the red tape and allowed us to adopt the policies to suit India's development. Thus, policies were changed and the Japanese partner allowed to have a 40% equity in the company. She and Rajiv Gandhi gave us direct access and total support to the new environment. The rest was history. Maruti became the catalyst for the modernization of the Indian industry in general and the automobile industry in particular. I could say that the formation of the economic reforms was laid by the foundation for the economic reforms was laid by Mrs. Gandhi, as evidenced by this instance. The success was not immediately visible. It was slow. It was a slow beginning. Rajiv Gandhi accelerated it, but this period was too brief to complete the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, the political economy in India has undergone considerable change since the days of Mrs. Indira Gandhi. From a controlled regime, the country has moved into an era of liberalization where many of the barriers like domestic versus foreign, private versus public have been lifted. Serious efforts are on to integrate the Indian economy with the rest of the world. All these reforms are aimed at improving the rate of growth of the Indian economy and to provide a better living to the growing population. Let us look at the broad picture today. The Indian economy presents a mixed picture. Several strengths, but at the same time, some of the more important weaknesses. International perception about India is very positive today. The world believes that India will be in the two fastest growing economies. Young demographic profile, the average age is 24. We are going to be the youngest nation for several decades. Inflation is under control. Savings rate is reasonably high. External payment position is very comfortable. Investment in corporate sector is satisfactory. Industrial growth has started going up from 7% in 2004 to around 11% in the last 6 months. Increase in competitiveness as you see in many places. At the same time, weaknesses are noticeable in many areas. Infrastructure inadequacies are a serious constraint for growth. The rate of growth in agriculture is going down, something to be very concerned about. I think for the past few years, the agriculture has not been doing well in this country. And it's brought tremendous amount of distress to the rural people. Poor performance in many social areas like health and education. High price of energy, particularly international oil prices, are high. Regional imbalance